So talk to us about anything that you think is in the way of your eagerness. Just mention it. We'll cut you off if it gets too long-winded.
Well, lack of money.
Lack of money squelches your eagerness. So
it does.
So what do you mean? Give us more. Get more specific.
I'm afraid I'm going to run out, and I'm going to have to ask somebody for some.
So, and take that further. And what would that mean?
Then I'm not pulling my own weight. Then I'm not contributing. I'm not being a grown-up.
And by whose point of view? In other words, if you had to ask somebody specifically for money, you've already formulated what you think their opinion of that would be, and now you're poking around in that opinion and making yourself pretty uncomfortable.
I am poking around in that opinion way too much.
And that's really specific, isn't it?
That's pretty specific. More specific I'm beating the drum of that quite a bit.
And the more specific you are in opposition to what you want, now you think you're talking about money, but we think you're talking about eagerness. In other words, isn't there anything, what is worse than having someone disapprove of you?
Nothing's worse than that.
Yes, something's worse. Losing your eagerness.
That's worse.
But you're losing your eagerness because you're worried about what somebody thinks of you.
They're all in my head. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting, though? So can you separate your eagerness from their approval or disapproval? It's not the easiest thing to do, but do you think that conceptually it can be done? Would it be possible for you to not give a rip what anybody thinks, that you remain eager? The kids in the classroom do it. You were a failure. You could not suck the eagerness from them, you see. So do you think that you could stand in a place of such eager defiance? Eagerness is defiance against bondage. Defiance against bondage. Defiance against opinion of people who want to squelch you by their disapproval, by their willingness to label you a failure, because we're getting carried away here.
Yes.
But we're getting it all right out of your vibration. In other words, that's what's there.
It's not really other people. It's what I think they're going to say. It's really it's within me.
They're not even saying it.
They're not even saying it. Yeah.
You're creating the whole story.
I'm creating it all. Yeah. I'm playing the same record over and over again.
It's that perceptual thing. So now we've gotten really specific. Wasn't it fun? Ooh, meaty. We could make a movie out of this. But
is there a paycheck?
But eventually. So we got specific, didn't we? And in the specifics of it, it got feeling worse and worse and worse and worse, even though we're playing about it. But you get the point of it. So now let's get general about it. Generally negative. People don't know what they're talking about. People don't know what they're talking about relative to me. People don't know what makes me tick. People don't get to decide for me who I am and what I want to do. In other words, it's negative, but it's less specifically negative, and it actually feels better to be negative.
It's anger versus depressed. It's movement.
You're right. You're right. You are sort of moving up the emotional scale.
Yeah.
But we're augmenting that, moving up the emotional scale, by making it simpler. The emotional scale had infinite set points on it that you are reaching for. This is a easier to understand scale because it has basically only 4 columns. There is specifically negative, there is generally positive, and then specifically positive. And what happens so often is that you beat up on yourself because you want to jump from specifically negative to specifically positive, and it's too big of a jump.
It's too big a jump.
So we just want you to get generally negative until you feel some of your eagerness returning in the form of revenge. Now, that's funny, isn't it? But don't you feel more eager in revenge than you do in depression? Of course you do.
Absolutely.
In other words, and so that's why we were saying they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know who I am. They don't know how much I want to feel good. They don't know. They don't know what I'm capable of accomplishing. They don't get to decide. Nobody gets to take a snapshot of where I am and proclaim that that's who I am. I'm here on a journey. I came to experience life. I came to evolve and expand. I came to choose what I want. So now we're getting a little more positive.
Yeah.
So, but we want to move to the specific the specifically positive about this subject, because you're close enough that you'll feel it as we begin to unravel it. And we want you to stay there long enough that you find the eagerness that you were born with and the eagerness that you've been searching for. So we're just going to ramble here until we find it together. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
So and we're going to speak as if we are you.
Okay.
I don't know how to return myself to the eager person that I was born as. And not being there feels awful. In fact, it has felt so awful at times that I've wondered why I even bothered to come. And then some of my eagerness returns, and for a little while I know why I'm here, but I haven't been able to really sustain it. So I've sort of been moving with the tides and frankly feeling bad more than good more of the time.
Yes.
But because I'm determined, I don't quit, I don't give up, I keep trying. I keep feeling like if I could just get a handle on exactly what I'm trying to do, what my best plan of action is, that I could get around this, that I could figure it out. I can feel it, I just don't quite know what to do. It feels nebulous to me. It's real enough that I believe it's possible, but it doesn't come out and shine bright for me very often. And it's that bright, shining eagerness that I'm looking for. And viscerally, I remember it, but it's just not present often enough, and it's been long enough that it's just an inclination or an impulse with me, something that I haven't been able to really tangibly experience and manage. Now, all of that's true, isn't it?
Yes.
And is this conversation soothing a little bit?
Yes.
And the reason it's soothing is because it's like poking at the problem still a little bit, but poking at it more generally rather than so specifically. So we're just going to stay there for a while and keep poking until your set point actually moves, and it has already. It did move. That's why we ask you the question: do you feel more soothed in this process? Now, part of the reason you feel more soothed is because we are validating stuff you've known. But another reason is because you can feel with everything that you are, because we are projecting with everything that we are, that we find no fault whatsoever with you standing for a while, short or long, in a state of lack of eagerness. Nothing has gone wrong. It's just the starting point of a journey. And it's so not just the early starting point of the journey, because you feel so powerfully what you want. So it's laid out there in a really powerful way. And it just doesn't matter where you are. It just doesn't matter where you are. In fact, if you don't have a starting point of a journey, then you don't have the next thing that's more fun. In other words, this perception that we were talking about earlier, it's the movement, it's the motion, it's the leaving behind of the resistance and the picking up of the allowing that is so delicious about life. And we mean that so fervently that we want to say to you, we like it when you lose your connection because it's so fun getting it back. And every time you lose it, you put more rockets out there, and that's the process. Lose the connection, ask for more. Gain the connection, come into balance. Lose the connection, ask for more. Gain the connection, come into balance. In other words, you never said, I'll go forth into a physical body and be bouncing off the wall, eager. It's another thing that bothers you about those kids. They've got no real gauges. They're sort of manic in that way because they're so geared up to not let anyone squelch them early on. So that bouncing off the wall would be exhausting too. So you've launched these rockets. So now that all feels pretty good. So did you get the point? We hold no negative judgment about where you are at all. At all. Because it just doesn't matter. Because everybody is where they are on their way to something that they like more. So who gets to be the giant judge in the sky that gets to say, oh, you should be further along? So when you try to find that place as we find it, the reason that you feel this lightening up is because where you are doesn't matter. It doesn't matter no matter what. It doesn't matter no matter how big it is in relationship to where you want to be. You could have the most deadly illness on the planet and it would not matter. It doesn't mean diddly squat because it's just the starting point from where you are to where you're going, you see. And once you get that, then you really are free. Then you're free. So now let's get a little more specific. And we can't get specific about all those people that don't have any business, even if you've made them up in your mind, because you didn't make them all up. They were there. You recorded them. You paid attention to them. You watched the reaction to them. The people that that you think you might ask for money would have an opinion about why you're asking for money. In other words, you're not making all this stuff up. Mm-hmm. It's just that there's no point in focusing on anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. So you've diffused it a little bit. So now let's get specifically positive. Just because we want to demonstrate to ourselves, we're speaking for you, I want to show myself that I can feel good without anything changing that I'm responding to other than my own thought. It's my changing thought that brings my emotional manifestational response, not the change of circumstances. It's the change of thought. So I like giving myself the label of someone who was born with eagerness. And I'm happy that I still have enough memory of that eagerness that I know something's off when I don't have it. That's a really good sign. My guidance system must be well intact. And these little buggers that I've been teaching for a while, they've been really good for me because they reminded me of what true eagerness is. And frankly, they made me jealous that I'd gone so far in the losing of my eagerness. Now, whenever I witness someone living something that I want to live, it can't help but help me realize that there's a vibrational distinction between where I am and where I really want to be. So a sort of wake-up call happens in that and help me to reestablish my desire for eagerness. Eagerness is an interesting thing. We're speaking from your point of view. Eagerness means frisky. It means clarity. It means glad to be alive. It means feeling good in my body. It means eagerness is sort of a catch-all word, isn't it? It's a word that really eagerness and well-being are sort of a synonymous sentiment. I want to be eager about life, which means I want to be up and ready for it. I want to be Johnny on the spot. I want to be at a clear place of rendezvousing. I want to be alive and ready. I want to be good at comebacks. I want to be really quick at conversation. I want to have good timing in traffic. I want to have good time. I like moving in my body and have good time. I like being productive in my body. I like it that when I open the cupboard door and something falls out that I catch it. I really like being tuned in, tapped in, turned on. I like being, is this feeling good to you?
Yes.
I like now my new realization that eagerness that I've been missing, I would now like to describe that eagerness that I've been missing as the allowance of the full presence of my inner being within me in my moment in time. That's what eagerness is. Eagerness is a moment in time when I haven't put myself in a vibrational frequency that disallows the fullness of who I am. So all along what I've been yearning for is to be who I came here to be in more moments of my life experience. And of course, it is completely irrational to believe that I could move through life with all of the diversity that is around me on this planet and maintain a perfect record of perfect vibrational frequency with my inner being. That's not even possible, and it is certainly not something that I came forth ever intending to experience. I didn't say, I'll go forth and just remember that vibration, because if you did, you couldn't interact with anyone. You couldn't have a conversation with anyone. You couldn't watch TV, never watch CNN. You couldn't be even in this world if that was the standard or the goal that you had set. But you didn't set that goal. You didn't say, I'll be non-physical energy in a physical body. If that had been your intention to stay in that high frequency, you would not have directed yourself into this environment where there would be contrast that would give you new desires. So the eagerness that you're looking for is to get your eyes off the floorboard and begin looking toward who you really are, or that which you've become. The what isness will always cripple you. It will take you to your knees, because what is never, ever, ever even comes close to who you really are, no matter how good what is. You see? No matter how good what is, there is very little eagerness in what is. It's just not there. What is old news. Eagerness is the new stuff that's coming.